Hello, you've reached Lisa Talking again. This is just a really short video, and I'm going to intersperse the series that I've done about what broke Britain with these shorts about the economics and the politics of poverty. Now, this week I'm going to discuss prepayment utility meters. Now, with the economics and the politics of poverty, it's complex. When you're talking about inequality, you're talking about power relations. When you're talking about money's a bond of trust, and people without money, they don't have as much power as other people. And this is deliberately exploited. Now, when I start to look at kind of the structure, particularly around academia, what I'm going to say is that actually we're talking about new systems, new recognitions, new realities, and recognition of them that elite policymakers and economists couldn't have been aware of. In the video about The Guardian, I talked about Torsten Bell writing from the middle of an echo chamber and not being aware of it. Now, that lack of awareness is one thing, and it's actually genuine, and you can't expect policymakers to know everything, and you can't expect them to know about things they've never experienced. But the other side is that the narcissistic rage that protects these bubbles is about protecting a full awareness of poverty so it can be exploited. When Labour set up a fake anti-cuts movement, they may have used young Oxford and Cambridge boys and girls because they had no awareness of policy, but their MPs have constituency offices that people come into. In Calder Valley Labour the budgets were signed off on social care, and it was deliberate falsehood by the local Labour parties for 10 years, and they were fully aware of it. And this is the case with utility meters. Now, prepayment utility meters are very widely used, particularly on people with low and fixed incomes. They have a bit of utility, I think. They're really good. If you've run up a debt with British Gas, or you can actually pay off that debt over a period of time by paying for your gas and electricity. Prepayment, you put money on the meter at the beginning of the week to cover your gas and electricity for that, and it'll pay off your debt a little bit at a time. But what happens when you actually have no money, when you're waiting for benefits to come through, or when you're on the kind of benefit like Jobseekers Allowance, or a benefit that's only that's only like £50 a week, or you're waiting 6 weeks for a benefit claim to come through, as in with universal credit, is what you find out is that these prepayment meters are designed to deliberately profit from that poverty. Now, most of these meters have an emergency function, which is about a £5 thing, and most people on very, very low and fixed incomes are kind of balancing so that every week when they top up their meter, they'll be paying back some of the emergency. But what happens if you don't put any money on these meters is you have to pay for a week where you don't have any if you have a gas meter and you haven't had money to put on that gas meter for the space of a week, it will run up a debt, depending on the meter, of £5, £6, £7, £8, £9, £10 on top of the emergency you have presumably used. So somebody with an income coming in who possibly gets their gas electricity for about £15 a week on that meter, all of a sudden putting that same £15 on that meter will only pay off the debt that's incurred through not having any gas. You will pay a debt for sitting without power in your house, without heating, without the ability to cook, plus the emergency, and all of a sudden that £15 won't even get you to the point where you have got a £1 amount of gas. And it traps people who are already in penury in a vicious cycle. Now, utility companies are very much aware of this. These meters are set up so that they do this. But because you're talking about people who are absolutely on the uppers, who cannot afford to eat, who cannot afford gas, who cannot afford electricity, you are guaranteed to be talking about people without power. Literally, without power. And what you're talking about is these meters deliberately trapping them in a cycle where they're putting in the same amount that somebody who would actually be topping up their gas and electricity normally, and getting nothing for it at the point in time where they are actually most in dire need of something that doesn't exploit it. Now, this is the case across a variety of sectors. I'm going to probably come back to talking about credit sectors, and I'm going to talk about different sectors where this happened. But for this week, I wanted a little rant about utility meters and the politics of penury, and the way that people and companies, political parties, when I'm talking about companies and political parties not being aware of something because the distance between them and it is too great, it's not always innocent. It's usually very much a case of the narcissistic rage on Twitter is about keeping an echo chamber sealed so that they can retain the claim that they do not know this stuff. It's not innocent, and you can see that in the way that it is then exploited. That was my little rant about utility meters. I am currently uploading that video about the Book of Daniel, but there's something going on with my, I don't know what's going on, so it kind of, it's failed. So I'm just gonna have a look at it, but it should be up tomorrow. I will be back on Wednesday. I'm not going to talk about academia on Wednesday. I'm talking about the symbiosis between the far right and the centre left, and the way that that's manifested in the last 10 years throughout austerity, and that's part of the series on what broke Britain. Thank you for sticking with me today, and I'll speak to you soon.